Okay, so this is a brief overview of the time jump as it falls out, um, and should have more information on how things actually turned out after the time jump. It's not complete, it's just the basic overview so that we can get started in the game, and then I'll fill in more robust information on each of these topics and more topics as we go into the next month. But that'll take a while, so I want to get us at least the basics so we can get moving. There's a couple of main topics that you should know about. There's the trade orders, Fodlan Alliance, that still exists after the time jump. Dead Plague Zones, which is a new development. Mists of Shabarax, which is the green mists. The United Alliance of Rokron, which is a new government. The Reformation of the Orcish Cultures, which has to do with how orcs are played and function. And a Daidyath upheaval, which is some changes in the Daidyath structure. And the Dark Wilds Quiet, which is sort of a trance-like state the Dark Wilds is in. So just to overview these ones, the Trade Orders Fodlan Alliance is pretty strong at this point. It's just not good for most people. They seem to kind of have encircled most of Rokron. They're not necessarily really effective. They're just hard to get rid of, and so that's a continuing effect. A lot of people put a lot of energy into stopping them, and that seemed to go pretty well, as you'll see from the map, which you should be able to find in the link below, as well as the details on all the stuff I'm going to talk about in this video, the write-ups, so you can look at the written version if that's helpful to you. Remember, it's just the basics, so if it's just very technical, that's just what I need right now. I wanted to do a more thorough version, but too many things got in the way, so I'll do that as we get further on. So the basics. The Dead Plague zones, the Dead Plague is much more contained, which you'll find out more about. But I'm going to go through these one at a time so you can kind of absorb each piece. So the first is Wizard Trade Order and Fodlan Alliance. They come out of this with a pretty strong core base. They've got OP5 now, a base 4 mana for most of their mages. That's mostly just the Wizard Trade Order mages, though. They have a lot more allies and minions now. So there's the dwarves you're finding a lot. You'll find the Frostwing veterans fighting along with them. We didn't succeed in getting Welkries onto the throne. Stonehammer tried, and they pushed a lot, which you'll see from the map. They've taken over a lot of area, but they did not succeed in getting Welkries onto the throne, and there's a protracted civil war going on right now between Stonehammer and Fodlan, so that should be common knowledge. There's the Fodlan and Wizard Trade are recruiting from all over the place, trolls, ogres, giants. They get lots of people to help them, so you're going to run into those when you're dealing with them. You'll deal with lots of different troops that they've tried to get to help them. Newer development is these Fodlan dwarves that you'll find all over the place who are helping out Wizard Trade Order that are usually rank 2. They have like max equipment. They usually have a magical item of equal rank to them. And they all have this force zombify ability that they can use once per encounter, which basically turns somebody who's dead, even if they're an enemy, into a zombie that's allied to them. That's important because, as you'll see, both Wizard Trade Order and Fodlan are using zombie slaves also, sometimes even in combat. The zombies take orders from any living ally, and all these zombies have zombify. So that's kind of an interesting new development. With the Dead Plague zombies update, so there's been a big reduction in the Dead Plague effect. So players don't have the Dead Plague anymore unless a zombie is burned in an encounter that they're in. That they discovered towards the end of the time jump that it's burning a corpse that actually causes the Dead Plague to spread. And that's why it was also so difficult to get rid of. The theory behind this is that many of the organisms that are in these inside of the zombies, since they are some of them are they're undead. They're not killed by fire. In fact, all that fire does is cause them to move and spread in the smoke. They still survive in that form, and then you get breathed in, and then they can contaminate a new host. So really, if you do burn a corpse, a zombie. That's how you get the plague, and then you'll start every encounter zombifying at the beginning of the encounter, like you used to. But otherwise, you don't zombify at all. Nobody zombifies anymore. If you do burn a zombie, and then therefore everyone in the encounter will now have the zombie plague, they can be cured by any life mage with cure disease. And that's due to the information now on the overlay about what the zombie plague is and how it works and how to cure it in terms of its basic forms. So that should work. That was believed to have been a combination of some work done by Pinnacle and then some by Astengrad. So the Dead Plague only triggers now if a player enters the plague zones, which you'll see they're all over the map, plague zones. And they're kind of neutral or non-controlled zones because they're too dangerous to go into by most people. Players who die no longer zombify, of course, unless they're within those zones, and then they zombify immediately. They will, as soon as they die, they get up as a zombie on the other team. In those zones, you're going to find revenants and zombies and zombie lords and all that stuff. That's where you're going to find most of them. There are these quarantined areas, and they're not really enforced. They're just areas that people have kind of agreed we don't want to go in there. The zombie hordes outside those zones are going to be half zombie lords, half zombies. You're rarely going to get many revenants in there. I've found outside the zones, but inside the zones, things are much worse. So roughly about a third of all the hordes are revenants, and within the zones. So in the zones, all zombies, lords, and revenants have gifted avoid, and they learn any ability that they avoid. It's not clear if they forget those abilities ever, or if they just keep them. So those are areas people mostly steer clear of. You'll hear more about those when I do the full write-up. So the mists of Shabarax are the green mists that we all heard about in Ilyanos. That's their actual proper name. Shabarax is the demon that's been named and found out to be the one that controls the undead from the mists, and it seems to be behind this whole thing. There was another demon that they dealt with over the time jump, which was called Bagram, which was a flame demon with sort of shadow demon abilities that they believe was actually somehow connected to the Nonus line in some sort of way, and they're not sure. They never really figured that out, but they ended up kind of solving or exercising the demon in a really odd way, and that demon is now gone, but they're still left with its master, which was Shabarax, and there's some clues as to what that it's about, and maybe how to solve that, or how to deal with it. And in the main, though, the more important part is that the wall that was around Ilyanos is now down. Ilyanos now actually just tries to control the mists by keeping it all sort of in the center of the plateau. There's a few other areas that they don't have control over, as you'll see on the map. And these mists are somewhat, people don't really go into the mists of Shabarax. They mostly stay out and try to control the boundary line. They found that actually one of the things that spreads the mist is the undead themselves. So if you let the undead move about and can move into your area, then the mist will follow them. So they have to take out the undead and keep them underground. That's how they have learned to control the mist from spreading. Also, they've noticed that the undead seem to have an ability to move from any fissure to any other fissure within the mists of Shabarax almost instantly, making them very hard to get rid of, and also allows them to have access to many different areas. For example, there's mists of Shabarax in two places on the plateau, but also in Blackspire, and there are undead that can basically instantaneously go from the Ilyanos Plateau to Blackspire through those rifts very quickly, and that makes them very hard to follow or track or manage. So you'll see some more of that as you look over the maps and things. All the usual minions that we've encountered in the Mists of Shabarax now. A few new things you may not be as aware of is they have a lot of these species type ghouls that they use, which are ghouls that basically also have the species types of many other things like cave trolls, hill giants, turk orcs, that sort of thing, that are all in a ghoul-like form. Those are kind of new. And also other stolen undead. They can still steal undead, any undead. They can tag them and corrupt them, take them over. They even have some haunts that are working for them now, having been corrupted. So So that's going to be a plot line to kind of deal with this in this particular season. On the good news end of things, the United Alliance of Roacron. Many nations are now members of this United Alliance of Roacron, which is a new government that's sort of emerging. The groups have non-aggression pacts, so they won't attack each other, and they have a pact that they will not, harm each other. They also resolve their disputes through a council with a rotating leader who could break ties and whose country must provide leadership in war times. Members of the council are selected using whatever means their country deems fit. So they can vote people onto the council if that's what their country wants to do. If they can hold battles to see who's the strongest, and that person gets to go onto the council. They can do debates, or whoever wins the debate gets to go, or they can even bribe people to be chosen. And whatever their country chooses is the way they get put onto the council. But on the council, they all vote to decide things, which is kind of a new phenomenon in Roacron. We'll see if it lasts. Any attack on any nation will be taken as an attack on all the nations. The symbol of the golden crown, made of like many hands, all of different species, is the new symbol of the United Alliance of Roacron. Current members are Desnor, Oriri, and Eonion, the Wood Elven Protectorate, Hostor, Amir and Aramir, Ilianos, Odalathan, Stonehammer, and Soraconia. If you notice that Blackspire is not on that list, that has to do with a war that occurred at Davia Hold